Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, grannies and gators. It's Wednesday, July 3rd, the day before Independence Day in the United States. So, shout outs to our American friends, family, and cousins down there for their big day tomorrow. But today we got some unusual programming, contrary to regular scheduling. Wednesdays are supposed to be guest night. And life gets in the way, guys. So it last couple hours I spent this afternoon trying to put something else together because my guest had to take a rain check. This is why I'm sometimes hesitant about announcing who we've got coming on. So tonight it's to the mailbag. You guys are going to get like a reaction video, is kind of what I settled on doing with you guys tonight, because Monday to Friday, regardless of what's going on, What's Up Canada is going to be here to share at least something with you. And there's usually something in there, I'm sure. Most of you guys come to find some value here. Uh, we had a couple of donations come in this week so far, so much gratitude for that. These are trying times, difficult on us censored journalists, so with great appreciation, thank you. You know who you are. Let's say we got a few people chiming in already, where they're from. Hey, Art Bean from Dryden, awesome. Brantford, awesome. And yeah, Kingsville, good stuff, guys. We desperately need you guys to share this stuff, especially if you find some value. Um, it's getting harder and harder to find us out there in the media space, but it is what it is. Adapt, improvise, and overcome. We will find a way sooner or later, right? So we're still, as usual, we are streaming on Rumble, Wimkin, Instagram, X, and Facebook. And last but not least, most importantly, lgm.news. So I will, because I need to do this. We've got so many new people coming, going, moving around. I need to remind folks, especially if they're new here, where they can actually find us. I'm still getting, messages. Where do we find you on Rumble? So this is where it is, guys. Get over here, make sure you get the follow button clicked, click the bell. That's going to make a big difference. And if you are a follower on here, check on that bell regularly. Make sure that it is going on there. You can find everything that we do here on Rumble, and that's, it's all about community when we're doing it live. But I know that there's also a lot of information comes out here. Oftentimes we've got a lot of documents. But before I do that, that's what the main page on Rumble looks like. This is what it looks like when you get to a video. If you just are new here, this is the other thing that I need to ask you guys to help out with as much as you can, but give that little thumb a crank. That definitely makes a massive difference on how many people get to see our stuff. And you can also follow here and join on locals. But after that, the most important place to find us is on Substack. This is where I bring all of the receipts, everything that we've used or covered or talked about in a show. goes on Substack, all the documents, whatever it might be. I better shut that off. Um, Comes in here, highlighted in green, all of the links, everything you guys need to follow up with. All of the other places you can find us. Somebody asked me the other day, "Are you on Spotify?" And I said no first, but I kind of forgot. I actually am. It's kind of a new thing, so people can get us on Spotify as well. Download the show there every day, as well as there's another one kind of syndicates out from these. So those are the places where you can find us. And the next thing I just need to bring up for a second, and I'm going to hammer on this one a little bit, guys, because this is important. If you are still buying any of these products from any of these corporations in any of the stores, and say you want to fight back, we need to have a talk. All right. We need to have a talk. You go to my website at whatsupcanada.org. I'll show you that right here. You go there and you can find it up here. It says set me free. Set yourself free from BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. Or you can click here on Patriot Switch, right? And then you're going to end up on this page and you're going to get this. And this is how we talk. This is how we talk. You fill in this blanks and you'll probably hear from an amazing lady named Kim, who is unbelievably generous in her time and her knowledge and her ability to answer questions. And we'll go from there and we'll show you guys a different way. And this is changing lives every day. So I hope you guys just think about it for a second. You know, we have no idea unless we're actually asking questions how much of an impact we can make by spending $1. That's what it'll cost you later on down the road after you decide to do this, because I know you're smart and you're going to want to do it. But we can make such a huge impact, and I want to talk about folks with about that probably next week, and we're going to have a little off the deck one-on-one. How do they do that? What do they call that? You know, you know, out of studio, kind of thing. But now back. Now we're going to get to the good stuff. We're filling in a little bit of time here, guys, and it's still important to the things that make this platform work, the things that keep us going. So awesome stuff. Oh, we got some folks on X in the house. Hey, Louise, awesome. Um, that we got that one from Dranford, Brad. We got Kelowna in the house. Awesome. Love you guys out there in Kelowna. Big stuff going on out there in Kelowna. I know Dr. Trotsy and a bunch are making the rounds out there. Alberta, nice to see my province represented here. I'm I don't know if I'm doing great things. CSI, CSIS spy. Oh, I like that. I hope you're laughing at them in doing so. I don't know if what I'm doing is great, but I am definitely doing everything I can. So this is where we're going to start tonight, guys. I don't know if you guys ever watch these reaction videos. Uh, People, pick a random video and film themselves and how they react to the video. Well, this is kind of the bit of the theme here tonight. When I was trying to put something together, I was like, okay, adapt, improvise, overcome. You guys get it raw and real. For me, this is reality streaming. I just went to the mailbag of I'm like a kleptomaniac. This is part of the process of me sorting the news from the noise. I'm kind of like a kleptomaniac. I gather everything from endless numbers of sources, and then I go through it and decide, if there is merit in this story, if there's something in there that we need to talk about or we need to be aware of. So the this just cracks me up. The colony of BC in the first post nation state of Canada. I totally get it. Awesome. Stonecliff, Ontario. I don't even know where that one is. That's a new one. I haven't heard of that one. So this is kind of, I guess, me opening up on how I kind of sort through one aspect of my daily job, between writing Substacks, publishing, doing a little bit of freelance writing for others and assembling shows and whatnot. This somehow I fit this uh, sorting of the nonsense up for you guys, and so I decided to just package it into a bundle because I didn't get to do a lot of that today because I was busy doing real world stuff, and I thought I had a guest lined up. So you guys are getting a behind the scenes look into what would have probably been on tomorrow's news. But today we are going to talk about Canada sleepwalking into a cashless society. Only about 1 in 10 transactions involve physical money, says the recent report. That should scare the bejeepers out of people. It makes it real easy for us to accept when they just pull the plug on it. And, this is by design. And I completely understand the convenience of it. It's such a pain to try and get cash a lot of times, and a lot of places don't even want it anymore. So this is one of those things that we've been slowly conditioned, frog in the boiling pot kind of things to convenience, convenience, convenience. Well, guys, this is exactly the downfall of our society is convenience. Leads us into that satanic lullaby and hypnosis and unrealistic expectations. They want us believing that no matter what our issue is, it can be resolved by prompting us right after we talk about it with solutions, places you can buy. I mean, talk about something random or wild in front of your phone that you would never talk about. I think I need a jackhammer. I think my phone's turned off. I'm going to do this little public experiment with you guys right now. My phone is off. I'm going to say I need a jackhammer. I don't really need a jackhammer, but I'll take some screenshots of the advertisements I get about jackhammers tomorrow. Oh, awesome, awesome. Minnesota in the house. Awesome. More from the Post Nation State in BC. Awesome stuff. So, these guys are, this is kind of a report card on the transition. This is them giving the public a report card from uh, CBC on look, we are good little globalists here in Canada. We are falling into this situation, right? Um, so the article goes on to say a consumer group is currently calling on on the federal government to follow other jurisdictions in the US and Europe and bring in legislation to stem the slide toward a cashless society. Most of you guys out here are hardcore, supporters of cash, 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 cash. Well, now it's getting critical. 1 in 10 transactions, 10% of the transactions in Canada are done using cash. That's scary, and this is something that's absolutely critical to act on now. Uh, Take an extra minute. Stop using that debit card. Don't use the self checkout. There's all kinds of ways. So I hope folks go and get this article tomorrow and talk about this. These are the things that we need to talk about. This is part of that nudge propaganda. Oh, well, look, see, everybody else is doing it. Must be okay. So these are the kinds of things that we need to be cognizant of, be aware of that are happening around us, and do our part to change that. That's because that's ultimately that's what I'm gonna say. Oh, this is what you want. You guys don't want cash anymore. Oh yeah, two people, complain about it. Nah, it's not enough. You lose. And so this is another example of that apathy that is you know so convenient for us to get trapped in, right? And that is a dangerous thing because now we're setting up a different generation. And I've been talking about this with some folks in different situations over the last little while. The millennials kind of fear the Gen Xers and pardon me, the baby boomers, they're the ones, destroying the planet basically. And the millennials, well, they're kind of, not really right in the head. The Gen Xers, well, they're kind of fair. Well, wait till Gen Z shows up, guys, because these guys are so disillusioned with society. They look at everybody that's, out there in this cyber avatar universe, and how, for lack of a better term, batshit cray it all is. They don't really have a whole lot of faith in any generation walking before them. So they look around and they see all of this degradation, crime, abuse, psychological, physical, with no accountability. To them, fraud is a victimless crime. It's something that is becoming more and normal and acceptable, and this is leading us further down that acceptability of you know things that our society 10 years ago absolutely would not have. And they're making it okay. They'll say, "Oh, you got frauded on your credit card? Don't worry, it's insured. Everything is insured." And meanwhile, the insurance companies are a whole other Ponzi scheme scandal in themselves, right? So it's this apathy that creates these situations that allows the monster to grow, and the generation coming behind us is kind of looking at this and going, "Why bother to be, one of these so-called productive, people?" They feel like they're kind of left out, and when they look around them, they look at most of us are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, not getting anything actually accomplished for years and years and years, generations, and they're getting bombarded with, continuously with news like this. Oh, a study finds Alaskan ice field melting at an incredibly worrying pace. The speed of decline in the Juneau ice field, an expanse of 1,050 interconnected glaciers, has doubled in recent decades, scientists discovered. Now, guys, I am not paying to read the rest of that kind of drivel, but at the end of the day, this is these guys manifesting that endless and programming endorphin release. They're literally using manufacturing neurolinguistics programming headlines to trigger chemical responses in the brains of our kids. And this is that regular dose they got to keep feeding the programmed. That regular dose can't have them slip, right? Got to keep them in fear and silent misery and desperation, because now they're starting to turn into a complete and lawless society where there's no accountability and nobody cares, right? And this is just incessant. Nobody's really collectively looking at this from what the impact from generation to generation is. But, how are they going to respond? How is each generation going to respond when they're told that the world is ending? They're going to drown, regardless of the fact that Plymouth Rock is still at exactly the same water level as it's ever been since, what, 1674. Haven't really got that much water difference in the last 400 years, but for some reason or another, in our lifetimes, our Generation Z is thinking, being told, and programming that it's undeniable. They're going to drown. The caps are going to melt. The bird flu, buzzard flu, is coming, and the mad scramble for the bioweapons arms race is in full swing. They are now buying up each other to get the next wave of profitability from the manufactured destruction of biological warfare waged upon their own innocent populations. Sounds like something out of a Marvel comic book, right? But it's reality. It's, unfortunately, this is what we've got. And meanwhile, while they're doing all of this and that and the other thing, trying to terrorize the population, they're destroying our economy, telling us we have to import, we have to replace our workforce with skilled labor that we can't generate here in Canada. I'm sorry, because our entire education system is too full of there's just no time for those kinds of worthwhile work skills. We don't have time to teach any of that in Canada because it's far more important that they understand 400 genders and diversity and equity and inclusion and the environmental cost and respect that must be given to that. And they just keep marching on. They just keep marching on. And now the big panic is that not enough. And this is a kind of a white label platform for the ESG companies, and this is going to kind of make sense a little bit when we get to a company that we've talked about a little bit here that isn't as famous as SNC Lavalin, but sure should be because they're basically the next Pfizer. So we're seeing an entire shift of industry from whatever it was exactly they did before. We're not allowed to know all of that, whatever the billions of dollars they get in government funding and lobbyist funding and support. But they're preparing everybody, they're helping everybody, but still, only 22% of chief financial officers are ready for climate reporting and assurance requirements. What that is, in plain speak, is the Gestapo is leaning on them to get their paperwork in order, or they are going to be forced out of business. They are not becoming rapidly ineligible for meeting ESG DEI compliance. And it goes into a little bit of the numbers there, but they're telling us it's not enough. Not enough, not enough, not enough. Everything that these guys are trying to force on us, whether it's medical experimentation or compliance to Geneva protocols, it's never fast enough. It's never fast enough. Run to the train faster. Run to the train faster. Right. So these are some of the propaganda and the nudge groups that are forcing forcing the compliance or the extermination of everything that they're trying to wrap under climate scams, whether it's land grabs, destruction of farms, culling of food production. They are attacking every aspect of it. And this is all money well spent by Geneva, Davos, Bilderberg, George Soros, and Klaus Schwab and co. And it's almost obscene. The Black Farmers Association, even now they're making this a racial thing, is calling for Tractor Supply CEO's resignation after a company stops trying to comply or is not willing to submit to the World Economic Forum, Fourth Reich, and the United Nations, because that's exactly who's at the helm of this. This is absolutely wash, rinse, repeat of World War II. All of these communistic, fascist, genocidal regimes through history. The only difference, guys, between what we're experiencing now and what they've experienced in the past is the technology has evolved, made it easier for them. Now it's global conquest, not just neighborly conquest that they're looking for. And I brought up Deloitte here again. And this is a company that, sorry, to be honest with you, slid under my radar for a very, very long time. Not so anymore. We've been talking about it a little bit here since they really got on my radar in on the front line of the bioweapons battle by announcing that they're making a transition to disease. Disease is going to be their new upcoming business. And so here they are, back in 2022, it is, And the disease, the medical compliance is all a part of your environmental, social, and governance scoring, right? These guys are the educators. Now, they've been educating companies since 2022 on what your environmental, social, and governance programs should look like. What is ESG? So, I mean, how many people out there really understand what's going on, why the banks are being forced into telling people when they're looking at their stock portfolios, their retirement savings funds, these kinds of things. Oh, you better get rid of these stocks. They have a bad ESG rating. It might be an oil company. They might have something to do with an industry that we don't like. You better get out of that. Get your stocks out of there. They're not ESG compliant. You're going to take a penalty for that. You're going to take a hit for that. So then all of a sudden, those companies that provide energy or resources, they're going bankrupt. Nobody's buying their stocks. They're collapsing. They're going to be crushed, and they'll inevitably be picked up with a great reset, particularly if they are actually of value. They're gonna, moonscape the economy in our countries and come back in and start with zero opposition, right? So these pillars are called pillars in ESG frameworks and represent the three main topic areas that companies are expected to report on. The goal of ESG is to capture all the non-financial risks and opportunities inherent to a company's day-to-day activities. They want to govern every word, every thought, every activity within the companies and file it into these three headline boxes and decide whether you are worthy of doing business with in the New World Order. So this is the cabal. This is basically the 10 commandments of the New World Order religion. I cannot make it any more plain than that. These social pillars. This is basically the introductory to the new Bible, the environmental, sustainable, and governance Bible. This is the fascist Bible that we're going to um, have to take part of. They're going to tell us that it's not going away, that it is here to stay. But that's something that I'm pretty sure we've shown in the last two nights here with the different shows on Monday and Tuesday about all of the tools and all of the people that are saying, nope, just not doing it, not having it, don't care what you say. We are not going to live in this international rules based one world order as Klaus and co in the UN dictate. But they're going to continue to steal all of your money through every purchase, every transaction that they can get from you. And this goes back to what I'm talking about when I'm sharing this. That right there, guys, that is the endless source of income for the cabal. Every week we go shopping and we fill BlackRock's bank accounts again, right? That's what we do. So these guys in their new religion are telling all of the corporations that they have to come into alignment with this new world ESG religion, and they're these NGOs, non-governmental organizations, lobbyist groups, charities. Uh, exactly, Ali's dad. Stop feeding the monster that is eating our countries, right? Uh, Excellent. You didn't take part in COVID. Well, guess what? The next one is on its way, and they're going to make sure that they terrorize people into as much compliance as they possibly can. And we just have to not take part in any of it, and we have to be more organized, more united in doing it because they've got huge, huge dollars into um, reprogramming the entire economic model of our societies. And we look at this from inside of our bubble on this side of the Pacific, and we think that this is, only impacting impacting us. Nobody else is noticing. They're just doing this to our companies. But what is the end result of that? It's not looking good, guys. I hate to be the doom and gloomer. I never ever want to be the doom and gloomer. I'm always trying to give people, tools to go with the disaster. Like if I'm going to tell you guys about a fire, I'm going to point you in a direction at least of the fire extinguisher. That is, a major part of what I do. So I'm very hesitant about screaming about that the collapse is here, but unfortunately, we know it's coming. It was an inevitable. Uh, it was just a matter of time. How long they can keep the charade of our financial system going, as long as they can. It is not all being leveraged as a wealth extraction tool to get as much to bleed us as dry as they can before it collapses and there's nothing left. But this process is escalating. Stocks could fall, according to these guys. This is Fox Business. Stocks could fall 30% as U.S. heads for a deep recession, analysts warn. And we don't make enough here. We don't make our own shit, and when there's no money, there's nobody here to barter with if we don't make it here. So if it's not being made here, and the rest of the world stops doing business with us because our money is no good, you're absolutely right, Arnie. It's going to be I'm hearing between 10 and 100 times worse than what 2008 was. I'm hearing that it's going to make the dirty 30s look like a training run on how this is going to devastate our economies, and this is exactly what what our enemies want. Exactly. This is We need more of this. There's 15 states right now making ESG illegal. We've got Maggie Braun up here, taking a leg off of the ESG wolf. We have to get better here in Canada at that. 15 states is not enough yet to stop it down there, but that's a heck of a good start. And we need to learn from these kinds of things because they are absolutely coming for everything we got. And why it's picking up faster is because the guys on the other side of the table are looking over at Canada, US, the UK, England, France, New Zealand, Australia going, and they're like, you guys are so retarded. And that's not a word I use lightly, but that's what they're saying. Like this, it is so beyond the pale of reason and sanity what we are being drug into here, um, that they're just not having any part of it. And the more countries turn away from doing business with us, from using our currency, that's that you know we want to use our own currency. They won't use our own currency. So if we're not using our own currency and nobody else is using our own currency, guess what? We probably don't need much of a currency anymore. And that's when the uh, the crash is going to hit, and it's going to be really, really nasty. And this is why we're seeing such a huge shift to the right. Something else we covered in depth last night, with the dumpster fire of Trudeau. And I just want to address this. Jimmy Jack, Joe, sorry, no, no, I will look at any invader in the same light. I love America. I don't want to be American. I love being a Canadian. And that's not speaking Canadian. Sorry, my friend. It's just not. We need to learn from America, and the difference is that we are 1/10 of America, which means we can clean up our own shit 90% faster than they can. All we got to do is do something about it. No, it's not too late. It's never too late. Sorry, I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be told that you've got a 0.01% chance of survival. And guess what? I'm still here today. So nobody can ever tell me it's too late for anything. What we have to do is figure out and look closer and pay attention to what Iceland did. There is a way out of all of this, but it's going to take all of us to do that. But it's absolutely still doable. But this is interesting that I'm not familiar with this semaphore. I don't know if they're good, bad, or otherwise. I don't know if they're left, right, or not. Again, this is news to me as much as it is to you. But I looked at this headline and I kind of started to have a glance at it before. Ex-spy chief becomes prime minister of the Netherlands, but analysts are questioning his staying power. Insights from Politico, Friedrich Neumann Foundation, European Council on Foreign Relations. So it's telling me that my gleaning of that, given these references here, is that it's probably a left leaning. I'm being kind here. My interpretation that it's probably sponsored by. Yep, and they're questioning the viability, how long it's going to last. The Dutch intelligence chief Dick Schoof was sworn in as the prime minister of the Netherlands on Tuesday after more than 7 months of negotiations following far right firebrand Geert Wilders' party's victory in elections last November. What they're basically saying is Schoof will head up a broadly right wing coalition government and has promised to implement the country's strictest ever policies on asylum and immigration. That's the far right. They're going to clean up house. We know from Gert that and been listening to him that he wasn't going to back down on some of these issues, and now the coalition has been struck. Now that it's safe to do so, and I think that this is directly in response to the shifting of the tide. We talked about last night a brand new international alliance launched, the Patriot Alliance in Europe. The dominoes they're not just going tick tick anymore. They're kind of going a little bit more tick, 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 day by day by day. The dominoes, guys, they are falling. When I predicted, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago, when I looked at the G20 picture and circled all the heads that were gone, the ones that were left then, they're leaving this time around because you cannot help but notice exactly what we're seeing here. With in the Netherlands, the Biden situation is an absolute dumpster fire. He is being sacrificed. Trudeau is an absolute dumpster fire. He is being sacrificed. In France, you've got baby Le Pew, Macron, who is being sacrificed. In the UK, you've got Sunak, who's being sacrificed. It's over. And then when we take the look at, like we listened to last night, where all of these meat muppets are nothing more than tyrants of the vassal outreach of the illegal or the unelected oligarchy that's primarily the biggest parasites of America and Canada. So these unelected entities that have all of the money in the world, that made all of their money robbing us in America and Canada for all of our resources, and the rest of the world too, mind you, have gone wash, rinse, repeat through every war in the world. And when they start losing control, they start a new world war. So this is why we are seeing that again, where they're trying to raise the world so that they can maintain the control and then profit once again from the rebuilding of it. They destroy it first and then they profit from rebuilding it. And this is what they're doing. And this is what they're trying to set it up for. But they're losing control of their narrative and things. So they're in deep damage control. Deep damage control. Uh, Well, I'm glad you bring this up here, Jimmy, because what you're saying here indicates that you actually do still have a little bit of hope, even if it's far reaching, and that's good. Cling to that because you're going to see more. Tune in more. Show up here every day for the next month or two. Share this out. Go back and watch through some of our other streams. On Monday, I gave everybody an entire toolbox to take back your municipality, everything you need to take it back peacefully and immediately. It's there, right? Um, so yeah, It's these things are going to happen. This shift is happening, but it's as these guys here in this article are trying to pretend. But is questioning his staying power. It's not about him. It's about knowing and understanding what freedom really means. Knowing and understanding what is really right and what's really wrong. This one world order, this one, everybody is exactly the same all the way around the world and treated and governed and forced to live exactly the same. That's not acceptable. And these meat muppets will go away, but we will not, right? And it's time to end this charade. And these guys are showing us all different examples. And at the end of the day, these guys are only having these successes based on the court of public opinion. The public opinion, the public has accepted the responsibility to do their duty and go to the court of public opinion and say, hey, I'm here. This needs to change. It needs to stop. All right. So it's absolutely on us. And we can absolutely do this. Absolutely. When we start pulling in the same direction. And that's the biggest problem. We have all the resources we need. We just need to start using them together towards the same thing. And it doesn't mean we have to agree on everything at all. But the process of removing the ick, that's the same for everybody. Because it's the process, it's the system that we have to take out. And it's simple. It's really simple. It's just not an immediate easy button. You can't dial in and order it to be done. It's not going to come delivered to your doorstep. It basically depends on us. So I'm going to do something here again because this is a reaction video. It's something else I don't usually do. I did it again last night, but the Larry Brock stuff was just, there was nothing I could clip. That was, everybody needed to see and hear what Larry Brock had to say. And it's kind of what Javier Milei is like. So I'm gonna play this 11-minute clip. I'm just about out of stuff for tonight. I got a couple little tidbits you guys are gonna like. More tools, Jimmy Jack Joe. More tools. You're gonna like what I got coming up right after this video. So let's listen to what Javier Milei, the new president or prime minister of Argentina.
If you haven't seen this, Argentina's new president Javier Milei just sent the loudest message to the Western world from the World Economic Forum, and I don't think anyone's been able to make a stronger case for free markets and libertarianism in a long time. And you know why that matters? Javier isn't an isolated case, but he's part of a new populist resurgence that's happening both in the United States and countries in South America, including El Salvador. And I think it's signaling the rise of a new potential bloc that might steer these countries in a very different direction. Just watch what Javier Milei said in this AI translated speech, and you'll realize exactly why.
The main leaders of the Western world have abandoned the model of freedom for different versions of what we call collectivism. We are here to tell you that experiments are never the solution to the problems that afflict the citizens of the world, but rather they are their cause. Trust me, there is no one better than us Argentines to provide testimony on these two issues. This concept that has become trendy in the developed world recently, in my country, it has been a constant in political discourse for over 80 years. The issue is that social justice is unfair and doesn't contribute to general well-being. On the contrary, it's an inherently unfair idea because it's violent. It's unfair because the state is financed through taxes, and taxes are collected coercively. Or can any of us confidently say that they pay taxes of their own free will? This implies that the state is funded through coercion, and that the higher the tax burden, the greater the coercion, leading to a reduction in freedom. Those who promote social justice start from the idea that the economy as a whole is a cake that can be distributed in a different way. But that cake is not given. It is wealth that is generated in what, for example, Israel Kirzner calls a market discovery process. If the good or service that a company offers is not desired, that company goes bankrupt unless it adapts to what the market is demanding. Create a high-quality product at a good price or attractive, succeed and produce more. So the market is a process of discovery where the capitalist finds the right direction on the go. But if the state punishes the capitalist for success and blocks him in this process, it destroys his incentives. And the consequences are that he will produce less and the cake will be smaller, generating harm to society. Collectivism by inhibiting discovery and hindering appropriation, ties the entrepreneur's hands, preventing him from producing better goods and offering better services at a better price. How can it be then that from academia, international orgs, politics, and econ theory, an econ system is demonized that not only has lifted 90% of the world's pop out of extreme poverty and does so increasingly faster, but is also fair and morally superior? Thanks to capitalism, the world is currently in its best moment. There has never been a moment in history with greater prosperity than the one we live in today.
By the way,
I wanted to, I guess perfect timing, right? I wanted to hit a point on that. The last 50 years has been the best life humans have ever, 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 ever lived for the general population in some parts of the world. Life has never been never been better for humanity than the last 150 years. We're still a long ways from doing it right because of these clowns that continue to destroy our world. But I just thought it was really important for people to put that in perspective. Good times breed soft people. The best of times breed the softest of people. I'll stop there.
do subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell for more content like this. Now, I think hardly anyone has been able to say this truth as bluntly in the United States, despite the fact that taxation in the United States has seen an increase in the last few decades as the welfare state, size of government, and expensive foreign military interventions have made it inevitable to do so. Right now, the average earner at $63,000 a year in the United States pays nearly 22% of their earnings.
Life, I want to pull this up here, guys. What he's saying is right. We got fat, lazy, and apathetic. Life was good. They're spending all of this money, making deals, spending away all of our fortunes on their conquest and their warmongering and their destruction and rebuild. That's for them. That's what it's about. First to destroy it, then they get to rebuild it. They get paid for destroying it. They get paid to rebuild it. That's the cycle, right? And we aren't really paying attention because life is good. Life is good over here in Canada. Our parents, comparatively. And I know there's exceptions. I'm not, LC. Let's compare scars someday, okay? Compared to what life could be like in other parts of the world. I'm talking in general on a humanity level. Life has never been better for humans with shelter, food, supply, all of these things. Everything else, all of the drama and everything else has been manufactured. We didn't have any of this shit 150 years ago because everybody was too busy worrying about feeding themselves and sheltering and surviving. So life has been much softer the last 100 years.
In federal income tax, which is just one of the many kinds of taxation. But taxing more to spend more is a never-ending cycle, and Argentina's economic crisis is an example of that. The Argentine
We're heading the same path.
Government's higher proclivity to spend more money than it could raise created expensive national debt. Money was printed and taxes were raised to service that debt along with interest, which not only eroded the purchasing power of the poor, but also discouraged investment into many hurting sectors of the economy from both inside and outside the country. One Argentine peso now stands at $0.01 after losing its value by a staggering 90% in just 5 years. That's the economic spiral that brought into power someone like Javier Milei, by a nation hoping a strongman figure like him holding a chainsaw in his political...
I want to say one other thing to you here about this, LC. Life is getting harder for everybody, but no matter how hard anybody's life has been here in Canada, it's because of exactly the same people that are doing it now. They're just greedier, and there's more of them. And there's less of us that are willing to stand. So they're getting more emboldened. So I maintain 100% that every metric of suffering in Canada is at the profit or benefit of the same people. Every metric of suffering comes from the same place, implemented by the same people that have been passing the baton for generations.
Political rallies to metaphorically cut down the government could solve their woes. Since taking office just a few months ago, Javier has been adamant on his libertarian and capitalist antidote to Argentina's economic troubles, and it's still interesting to see how he defines those terms and ideas.
Now, in order to understand what we come to defend, it is important to define what we mean when we talk about libertarianism. To define it, I take up the words of the greatest proponent of the ideas of freedom in Argentina, Professor Alberto Venegas Lynch, who says that libertarianism is the unrestricted respect for the life project of others, based on the principle of non-aggression and in defense of the right to life, liberty, and property, whose fundamental institutions are private property, free markets without state intervention, free competition, division of labor, social cooperation, where one can only be successful by serving others with goods of better quality at a better price. In other words, the capitalist, the successful entrepreneur, is a social benefactor who contributes to the well-being of society as a whole. In short, a successful entrepreneur is a hero. This is the model that we are proposing for the future of Argentina, a model based on the fundamental principles of libertarianism, the defense of life, freedom, and property. Now, if free market capitalism and economic freedom have been remarkable instruments to eradicate poverty globally, and we are presently experiencing the most favorable period in human history, it is worth inquiring why I assert that the West is in jeopardy. I argue that the West is endangered as in countries defending free market, private property, and other institutions of libertarianism, sectors of the political and economic establishment, due to errors in their theoretical framework and ambition for power, undermine libertarianism, opening doors to socialism, and potentially condemning us to poverty, misery, and stagnation. Because it should never be observed that socialism is always and everywhere impoverishing, failed in all countries where attempted. It was a failure economically, it was a failure socially, it was a failure culturally, and it also killed more than 100 million human beings. The main problem of the West today is that we not only have to confront those who, even after the fall of the wall and overwhelming evidence, continue to advocate for impoverishing socialism, but also our own leaders, thinkers, and academics who, sheltered in a misguided framework, undermine the foundations of the system that has given us the greatest wealth and prosperity in our history.
And that's what's sad. The fact that even after a full century of having the greatest reduction in global poverty in human history, too many people have failed to see past the antagonistic feelings that things like competition or self-interest create. But anyone that understands at a fundamental level how the free market even works knows that these are a feature and not a bug. That's what has led to the greatest and most drastic reduction in global poverty in human history. Abject poverty, as defined by $1.25 a day, has come down from over 80% in 1895 to less than 10% today, adjusted for inflation. No socialist state in history that claims to be able to tackle poverty by plain redistribution has ever come close to that feat, because it strikes at the knee of the system that generates the wealth.
Wait a second. I think he's saying there that if everybody gets paid the exact same thing and we have absolute equality in our country, like we would if we had universal basic income, food programs for the kids, that it's not going to work? Say it ain't so, Mr. Millionaire Mentor.
In the first place, which is business and free enterprise. One of the most first and important thinkers in the entire history of economic libertarianism has been Adam Smith, whose book, The Wealth of Nations, back in the 17th century, did one of the most counterintuitive things at the time. It unapologetically proclaimed that greed is good and that individual selfishness of millions of people is a force that can be harnessed for social benefit. Here's an incredible sentence from that book that shows just how far Adam Smith was thinking for his time, describing the motivations and supply chains that satisfy our material needs every day. It reads, quote, "It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from this regard to their own interest, we address ourselves not to their humanity, but to their self-love, and never talk to them of our own necessities, but of their advantages." And here's the most intriguing part. This idea isn't even complicated or requires too many assumptions. The libertarian economic model can be boiled down to two simple ideas that should be easy to get behind. The fact that every human deserves private ownership of the fruits of their own labor, and the non-aggression principle, which means individual liberty, including that private property, cannot be trampled on or by any force, person, or government.
I'll bet Klaus doesn't like this guy at all.
Starting from those premises, a free market opens where people engage in free exchange motivated by their own benefit. Comment down below what you think about starting from these fundamentals. But what happens when that simple yet ingenious economic system has proven its efficiency relative to other systems time and time again? While those collectivist and socialist ideas retreat into other arenas, importing their victim and victimizer narrative into the social sphere, which is exactly what we're seeing today. Watch Javier Milei pick the Marxist idea into shreds just as clearly as he did economic leftism.
Well, yeah, that comes back to this story earlier, right? Where now, because they are have a different pigmentation, now they've got a different level of justice to fight for, and we must comply.
And the undeniable advances of the free world, socialists were forced to change their agenda. They left behind the class struggle based on the economic system to replace it with other supposed social conflicts equally harmful to community life and economic growth. The first of these new battles was the ridiculous and unnatural fight between man and woman. Libertarianism already establishes equality between sexes. The cornerstone of our creed states that all men are created equal, that we all have the same unalienable rights granted by the Creator, among which are life, liberty, and property. This radical feminism agenda has led to increased state intervention, hindering the economic process. It provides jobs to bureaucrats who haven't contributed anything to society, whether through women's ministries or international organizations promoting this agenda.
No government generates anything. They are an absolute 100% deficit to the generation of anything, and the more they are, the less they allow us to generate.
Another conflict that socialists pose is that of humans against nature. They argue that humans cause harm to the planet and that it must be protected at all costs, even advocating for population control mechanisms or supporting the controversial agenda of abortion rights. Unfortunately, these harmful ideas have strongly permeated our society. Neo-Marxists have managed to co-opt the common sense of the Western world. They achieved this through the appropriation of the media, culture, universities, and yes, even international organizations.
That's one of the most insightful things you probably ever heard on how the woke left uses social Marxism as ultimately a lever on economics. That's because the more narrative of social oppression against groups and by groups is spread, the more justification is created for a bigger government that intervenes in economics to set right that balance. And it's that connecting thread that is burned to the ground with both economics and society, because the people in power who are given that power and responsibility are often just as corrupt and incompetent as anyone else, and that greater power translates into greater damage. Argentina was a victim of that on the economic front, and America's going through it on the societal front. Both need to reform the individualist and libertarian thinking that relegates the social and economic role of government to what it was almost meant to be, which is uphold law, defend the nation, collect minimal taxes, and get out of people's private lives. That's not just good principally, but also pragmatically, as the state of the world reminds us time and time again. You've seen nothing.
All right. I'm gonna pop that off for just a second and talk about that for a second. You know, we talk about the black farmers. That's that cultural Marxism. That's George Floyd. That's burning down of Minneapolis, and that's what they're referring to that. And it's absolute the illegitimate mob. These guys are incited by government. We call them here in Canada agent provocateurs, but it's straight up business now. NGOs, nonprofits, lobbyists hire these Marxist thugs that they've manufactured. Instead of making productive, skilled laborers, they've manufactured Marxist clone troopers that they can now call out on a moment's notice to enforce that which the illegitimate governing body deems the flavor of the day that they want to crush you with. So this is the one that I was mentioning here just a few minutes ago to Jimmy Jack Joe. This is the one I want you to see, Jimmy Jack Joe. I want to get my grill out of here. I want to talk about this one a little bit more. I brought this up the other night from the Foundational Political Pledge page, but I don't think everybody actually understands the value of what this can be. You can go into the top here. You can search for your a politician, your all of the basic questions, provincial, or federal, provincial, indigenous, regional, municipal, school board. Go find your politicians. It's not showing up on your screen there. That's interesting. When I click on, it's not showing. That's bizarre. All right, it still moves, but when I click on the boxes up here, it wasn't showing anything. You guys aren't seeing the drop down menus that I can see. So I'll just have to read them. You can find your councilors, directors, independents, mayors, MLAs, MNA, MP, MPP, party leader, senator, trustee. That was under the title. You can check those that have joined the pledge or have not. The party that they're in: Christian Heritage, Coalition, Avenir, Quebec, Conservative, Green, Independent, Liberal, NDP, Nonpartisan Position, Parti Québécois, PPC, Quebec Solidaire, United, and Yukon. Everything is listed in there, and you can find your politician and find out if they're not there on this page. Get on it. You can submit to these guys. I think that you're allowed to, that you can contact them, and if not, get a hold of me if they're on there, and I'll talk to Randy who put this together. But I think it's important. So these guys have put together a scorecard of how, and there's more on this page. Obviously, this website is huge. All different stuff in here, but how they come about, you can add to a scorecard. That's what I was looking for there earlier. So you can add to a scorecard, and these scorecards, you can actually get printable scorecards for some of them that are actually representatives that are actually doing the things that are asked for them. You can get a printable scorecard. Performance reports. You can get them here on some of these politicians and see what their voting has been. Find out who's been committing acts of treason. We know what is going on. We know what the crimes are. This is the fastest way to figure out who's exactly doing it, though, right? So I think this is a critical resource for folks. This this page. I think this is something that we can, we're talking about. Don't be hopeless. Pick up a tool. Pick up a dang tool. That's all it's going to take. Pick up a dang tool. Do something with it, and sooner or later, you'll meet other people that are picking up tools. And there's far more of us than what we believe and think, guys. But this is such an amazing resource, and that's where I'm going to leave off with this tonight, guys. Thank you so much for this impromptu watch party reaction show to some of the stuff that's in my news box and cycling through the swamp today. Tomorrow, like I said earlier, is Independence Day in the United States. Wish everybody the happiest. Enjoy your people. Enjoy your people. There's nothing that they hate more than to see us living, laughing, loving, and thriving. So, on that note, guys, I love you all. Stay strong, stay mighty, my fellow patriots, and hostages too. I'm starting to break out a sweat here. It's probably a good time when I start leaking on my computer here. But we'll tune in tomorrow. We're going to talk a little bit more about, a little bit deeper about how to start taking some of the other legs off of the wolf. This is kind of the analogy that I'm using. There's great people, particularly Maggie Braun and the work that she, brought to the table that others are now duplicating or having great success in. That's starting to make its way across the country, but they got they got a grip on one leg of that wolf that is eating our country, and they're gonna gnaw that leg off of that wolf. But the problem is a three-legged wolf. If he wants to eat you, he will still get you. So it's time to start looking at some of the other three and how we can and learn from what these other amazing or the I I mean let me rephrase that. They're just Canadians that have had enough, like the rest of us. They are not exceptional. They're just using their skills and doing exceptional things. We would never know. You would never know me walking down the street if I wasn't doing this. I am such the average guy, and it's like everybody else. Maggie is one of those too. Just people that are doing what's right, not what's easy, and getting results. They're doing exceptional things, and every last one of us, can do that too. So I love you all, and that's what I mean by stay mighty, my fellow hostages. And we'll see you tomorrow when we go after the wolf a little harder. I'm going to play you out with my little favorite company that in the world right now. So it's time for us to take responsibility and stop feeding the beast. Love you all. See you tomorrow.